Are we ready?
Let's wait for Bob to come back to confirm.
Okay.
Sorry, that was me.
Okay.
That's the backup. All right. We are live. Mary.
Okay, let's call to order the Osec meeting on Wednesday, January the 20th, 2021. Roll call. Michelle?
Here.
Oops, sorry. Glenn?
Glenn's muted,
Okay, you're muted, Glenn.
but she's smiling at you.
Okay, Barbara?
Here, Barbara Ebel here.
Okay, I'm here, and absent is Ross. And so can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry, you're going a little too fast for me. Who was the motion and second?
I motioned, Barbara seconded.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, we skipped right by introduction.
We did. Mary's zooming right along. Let's go ahead.
I'm zooming along. My apologies. Introductions. And it looks like we have some guests today.
Mary, I think introductions is where you have to read all the stuff about.
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of meeting
Sorry.
that we're
Thank
having.
you.
No
Okay.
worries.
All right.
I'm sure you
So
have it
that's
memorized
the-
by now.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Yeah. So that's the top couple of paragraphs, right? This meeting is compliant with Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 issued on March 17th, 2020, allowing for deviation of teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide the safest environment for staff, committee members, and the public while allowing for public participation. The public may address the committee using exclusively remote public comment options. The committee may take action on any item listed in the agenda. Public meeting videos. Members of the public may view the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting by logging into the Zoom meeting listed below. And that would be the website on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/Brisbane, California, or on Comcast channel 27. Any previous meetings held by Osec are archived, and you can find those on our website at brisbanecalifornia.org/meetings. To address the committee, you may, you may email aetherton@brisbanecalifornia.org or text 415-203-8897. I believe that is it.
So if we did have members from the public, they would go to a waiting room and you're monitoring that, Adrian? Is that what's happening? Or?
Actually, there is no waiting room because we have moved to a webinar format. So they would be automatically admitted to the meeting for viewing only purposes. And if they wanted to speak, I believe they would have the option to use the Q&A, or they could raise their hand and I would be able to admit them as a panelist temporarily to add their comment or question. I do not see anyone else in the meeting at this point in time.
Okay, great. Okay.
So let's see, we already went through this part. But I do want to go ahead and have folks introduce themselves since we have some new folks and visitors. So Mary, why don't you go ahead and start and just call on folks.
The roll call again?
No, just introductions.
Oh, introductions. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we have today.
I mean, Mary starting with herself.
Yes, Mary, introduce yourself
Yes.
and then call on the next person.
Go around. Okay. I'm Mary Rogers. I'm the chair of the Osec committee. I've been on the committee for 3 years. And Michelle, do you want to go next?
I'm Michelle Salmon. I am currently serving as the vice chair temporarily, or sort of in that role. But I've been on the committee a really long time now. I don't remember how many years, but born and raised in Brisbane, and I'm also serve on San Bruno Mountain Watch as board of directors.
Okay, Barbara?
Barbara Ebel, sorry, I've got my camera off because I'm battling a headache and sort of in a fluffy robe and all cute. And I didn't want you all to feel like I was being unfair, because you can't all be in cute fluffy robes right now. But I have been also on Osec for a dog's age. I work on the Climate Action Planning Subcommittee and have been really a lifelong environmentalist. That's enough for the moment.
Glenn?
I'm Glenn Fieldman. I've been on Osec since I think 2004, maybe 2006, a long time. I'm on the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee, and I also teach environmental studies at San Francisco State.
Right. Okay, and we have another member that's absent, Ross, and I think he's been on the committee a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And we have 2 open positions. And so, Adrian, do you want to go ahead?
For Adrian Etherton, Sustainability Manager for the City of Brisbane.
And Karen?
Karen, Deputy Director of Public Works, and the Open Space and Ecology Committee staffing and sustainability is one of many hats that I wear.
And Bob?
Yeah, Bob Sage. I am engineering technician, and I've been helping with Osec for 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And our guest? Not sure. Mark Costa?
Hi, this is Mark Costa with the Energy Coalition, working primarily with Adrian and Karen on one of the most recent ordinances passed as of late 2020.
Great. And Ivana?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ivana Doran with the Energy Coalition, and ditto to what Mark said.
Great, thank you. And Nyla, I hope I pronounced your name right.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
So I am the newest addition to the sustainability department within the Public Works. I'll be working closely with Adrian on the Brisbane Building Efficiency Program.
Great. Welcome. And thank you. Thanks to everyone.
So Nyla is our Climate Corps fellow that I've been telling you about, would be joining us. So yesterday was her first day with us. So we're just throwing her in, teaching her everything all right now. So,
great.
Perfect timing to have Mark and Ivana here to talk about the building efficiency program. This will probably be more than she's heard about it from me at this point. So,
Welcome, Nyla.
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Yes.
The wealth of knowledge here. I've got a lot to learn.
Okie doke. So oral communications would be the next item. I don't know
I
if we
just have an
any.
item.
Oh, okay.
I just want to remind people that you can buy plants from the Mission Blue Nursery. You just need to call or go online and make an appointment. We're not having plant sales, a large group gathering plant sales currently, but your plants are still available to purchase, and this is a great time to get your natives and get them in the ground. So please reach out at mountainwatch.org. Has all the information you need to make an appointment at the nursery to purchase plants, and has plant list and etc. Thank you.
Would that be something we would want to put in the next star?
Yes, it would be
in
something.
our little Osec corner?
Yeah,
just to promote.
That'd be great. Of course, the next star will be the March issue,
Yeah,
but that's still the case in March.
Okay, great.
Karen,
Next-
maybe we could get a Brisbane Blast note on that. That would be really cool. Is that possible?
Did you say my name?
Yeah.
Yeah, does Ariel communicate with Caroline about that at all, or does it go through
I
you
don't know.
guys to me? I'll contact her.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, next item is approval of the minutes. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to read through the minutes. Are there any questions or concern about the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. Nothing under old business. New business, we have Mark and Ivana here tonight to give us a presentation on the Brisbane Building Efficiency Program. So welcome again, and please present away.
Thank you so much. Is it okay if we just say next slide for whoever's controlling the slides?
Yep, that's great. That's me.
Okay, all right, great. All right, so I'll kick things off. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us tonight to present some updates on the Brisbane Building Efficiency Program. We wanted just to provide really a brief refresher on the program, how it came to be and why, and then we'll review where we are in the steps to launch the program and a little bit of what's to come. So if we can go to the next slide. All right, so first a little bit of quick background on the program. Before Brisbane passed its ordinance in 2019 that would pave the way for this program, the state passed AB 802, which is now a program called the California Building Energy Benchmarking Program, and that launched in 2018. That program permits building owners and representatives to request building level energy use data from utilities. And the state program requires that all non-exempt commercial buildings 50,000 square feet or larger in California to benchmark using a free tool called Energy Start Portfolio Manager, and then report back the results to the Energy Commission, excuse me. So some local governments like Brisbane have their own ordinances and programs that go above and beyond the state requirements. So they just collect the portion that's relevant for the state and they send them the results on an annual basis. In Brisbane, it really makes sense to focus on the existing building stock per the Climate Action Plan. The building stock represents about 30% of local greenhouse gas emissions, and that's fairly easily addressed compared to the second largest emissions from transportation. Also, a quick note that the work towards this program was made possible by a grant from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, the AQMD, and the city was awarded that grant back in 2018, I believe. All right. So we can go on to, thank you. All right, so a little bit about program goals. I already mentioned with the previous slide that the goal is to address the biggest source of emissions for local buildings, but there are lots of other program benefits. It eases the environmental burden, reduces energy and water use, supports climate goals. Beyond that, there's cost reduction for building owners, obviously stemming from lower utility costs for both energy and water. It's also increased comfort, safety, and health for building occupants. And we also know that this type of improvement of work environment also boosts productivity. So you've got an added bonus there. Energy and water upgrades tend to improve a building's value and resilience to both climate impacts and really just ever-growing utility costs. We've got collection of data as another benefit through this program that'll really help empower building owners and representatives with knowledge of where their building is not operating ideally and how they can address that. It'll also help the city with decision-making related to future needs and funding and what different types of programs to establish. It's also fostering data transparency and market transformation, so people can be informed about the type of building that they're considering purchasing or leasing, and assess whether it's performing efficiently or not. It can guide where they decide to locate and invest in certain instances. And it finally supports clean energy and decarbonization goals, of course, plus the development of green jobs. So as building owners and reps are going through the different steps of the program, they can utilize different auditors, energy service companies, equipment providers for upgrades, et cetera. So that's just a quick but comprehensive summary of some of the improvements that we'd be seeing through this program. If we can go to the next slide, thanks. So who does the Brisbane program apply to? That's what we mean here by covered buildings. The covered buildings include commercial, residential, and multifamily residential buildings that are over 10,000 square feet, or 10,000 square feet or larger, I should say, to be precise. And a lot of work went into determining what size was the ideal threshold. I promise this isn't an arbitrary number. The goal was really to capture the greatest amount of potential in terms of the energy and water savings, but not to overburden the buildings that were too small, using far fewer resources. And so with that, there'd be a risk that they might not be able to see a good return on investment from going through the motions of auditing and upgrading, which are requirements that come into play into the future. And we had ample opportunity to check this 10,000 square foot threshold through stakeholder activities and outreach in phase one, and everybody seemed to agree that that was reasonable and not too cumbersome on some of the smaller buildings. So it's important to note that single family residential condos and multifamily buildings with fewer than 5 units are not covered under the program. And then there for reference is the state's program definition of covered buildings, and just a few extracts are provided there. All right, I think we can go on to the next. And Mark, I believe I'm passing it off to you at this point.
Okay, great. So we participated in quite a few on the ground workshops when we were able to meet in person, and we gathered a lot of feedback, and that helped contour the ordinance and what goes into the requirements as people start having to comply with this, which is this calendar year. So a couple of the things that we did was we did a really comprehensive survey of the building stock. And we really found that there's a lot of industrial buildings in the city. So we chose to include them. And that's not quite typical of ordinances in neighboring cities. But in this case, it made a lot of sense just because of the diversity out in the industrial areas in Crocker Park and just throughout various pockets of the city. And then we also chose to address, how do we engage tenants in a meaningful way? And there's a lot of benefits, not only to the building owners, but to the tenants in having a handle on how the energy is being used and what are potential upgrades to the building that could ultimately save both parties energy and money. And so we included tenants in the process to disclose information when possible and when required. And then we have some language in the ordinance about exemptions and in terms of hardships. And we really modeled this after what Washington, D.C. did in their ordinance. They were one of the first to engage tenants. So we took a survey of cities across the country and decided that Washington, D.C. had a great example. We also offered some compliance pathways to building owners if they have a green lease. And this is a first in California. So this is something really to be proud about, is that we're in the city of Brisbane, a first to engage tenants in these types of ordinances. And we're first to recognize green leases in terms of certain things that you can do to demonstrate to the city that you have met a standard of performance that it aligns with the ordinance language. And so green leases is one of those unique things. Typically people think, I need to meet some metric, I need to make some score. But in this case, we have some qualitative things that can be evaluated in objective ways by the city. And then we also acknowledged the current and planned, what we call distributed energy resources. And so that would include solar panels. It would include electrification of certain end uses within the building. And it also includes electric vehicles. And while electric vehicles, you may think that, well, that increases energy usage, the main point about the ordinance is to reduce greenhouse gases. So when you think in totality about what the ordinance does, it gives people an opportunity to not only comply, but to showcase what they're doing as a leader in the city of Brisbane. So we can go to the next slide. We'll just mention, I don't know if there's animation on this one.
Mark, do you want me to just click through the whole thing, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, let's go.
I forgot there was animation.
Right to the end of it, because we don't need
Okay.
to drag this out. But just as a refresher, so if you're meeting with other colleagues within the city or constituents, or a question comes up, there's a workflow that's here that, believe it or not, is a lot more simplified than other jurisdictions. So we erred on the side of simplicity. And so the key takeaway in this is to show people, what do you have to do? Does this affect me? So if you have a building, as Ivana mentioned, 10,000 square feet or more, you're going to have to do something. For city facilities, it's actually down to 2,000 square feet. So the city is leading by example in terms of the compliance. And that happens every year for the thing that we call benchmarking. And we had quite a few presentations about this, and not only with Osec, but with other committees and just general stakeholders. But the beyond benchmarking compliance pathways, they go into effect a few years from now. So that's to come. We don't need to go into great detail about that. But the takeaway here is that there are two main options that somebody can go down to comply with this ordinance when the time comes in 2023 and 2024. And that can either be a prescriptive path where you show pretty cut and dry things that happen for your building. And within that pathway, we tried to give some recourse to the smaller buildings, which we classify under 40,000 square feet and then over 40,000 square feet. And you can see that we do include things having to do with both water and energy. Now, if we look up at the performance pathway, this is where a lot of people eventually we hope them to be. And what we're looking for here is demonstration of the principles that go into the ordinance. So have you saved energy compared to some baseline? Have you reduced greenhouse gases, and have you reduced water? And within that, we do, as mentioned on the last slide, recognize some building standards and some reach code type of activities, or things in CalGreen, such as, or similar to CalGreen, such as LEED EBOM and those DERs, which are distributed energy resources, and green leases. So people have a lot of options to comply with this. And if it were not for the public engagement, some of these options wouldn't have been in here. And a lot of these are innovations based on constituent feedback. So a lot to be proud about. We can move on here. And this is just a quick snapshot. You know, how many buildings are included? So we're looking about just a little over 100 buildings and over 6 million square feet of floor area. And we're requiring some industry standards in terms of the process, how the process goes. We align that with industry standards for looking at your building in terms of the energy and water assessments. And we have calculated based on the phase 1 of the Air Quality Management District grant, some greenhouse gas reduction impacts having to do with the ordinance. So the active benchmarking alone, there are some impacts of people being aware of energy and saving energy and water. And then in the next phase of the ordinance, there are impacts from people getting recommendations on how they can save energy and water. And so when you combine all those, we're looking at about 2,700 metric tons of CO2 equivalent within 5 years. So that should be really exciting to see how that goes along the way. And this is a big component of a climate action plan. So I think it all really points to something good and exciting that was an idea years ago that maybe a lot of you had a role in. And we're at the point where this thing is launching. So it's a really exciting time for the ordinance and for the implementation of the climate action plan. So we can go to the next slide. And I think.
Sure. Actually, Mark, before we go forward, I just want to put the number, the 2,700 metric tons in a context for some folks, because I know that number without some context around it can be kind of, is this good or bad? So the city's 2005 baseline emissions was about 72,000, and I believe we're down to about 62,000 or somewhere thereabouts as of our latest emissions inventory. So this is a pretty sizable reduction. I believe our estimate in the climate action plan for how much Peninsula Clean Energy impacts we're going to reduce emissions was about 1,400 metric tons. So this is expected to be almost double the impact of that Peninsula Clean Energy transition.
Great. Ivana, do you want to take it back?
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Mike. All right, so just a brief review here on the different project activities and timelines. So this is specific to only phase 2 implementation, phase 1 being the drafting of the ordinance, the stakeholder outreach, etc. So from the top here, the things that have been completed already under phase 2 include developing and refreshing the list of covered buildings, obviously very important. Benchmarking all of the city buildings. As Mark said, it's important for the city to lead by example. We completed also a voluntary compliance pilot last year, which offered and really encouraged building owners to comply early with lots of one-on-one support and assistance from us to really walk them through the process all the way through submitting their data. And this was also really valuable for us. It gave us the opportunity to see if any part of the process needs to be tweaked, if we need additional educational resources to help people get through all of the steps. And it's just really better insight into how everything will work, sort of a soft launch, if you will. So from that, we also developed a case study of a local business going through the process, and we're sharing that through a few different mediums so that we can feature by right for their leadership. We also developed an administrative system which will house all of the great data collected from the program and all of the compliance submissions. The compliant management was developed with the help of a company called Malka. And we're currently in the process of updating the web portal with additional details about the program and really just any resource that's going to help people comply and leverage opportunities that are out there. There's a long list of things that we're aiming to put on the website. Some resources we'll prepare on our own. Some will be external links, but we really just want to create a comprehensive platform that's going to guide people in their understanding of the program and what they need to do. So we can go on to the next slide, which is the last. Finally, here's a glimpse of what's to come this year, and really in the first quarter of this year, to be precise. Lots of outreach in a nutshell, including communications, marketing, and education. If you look at the website already, you'll find some resources like the program fact sheet. There's an FAQ, a compliance checklist, and a water meter instructions document. So we're building upon those. And we'll be adding additional resources like recorded webinars and tutorial videos with step-by-step instructions, and honing in on some of the aspects we know that are going to be tougher to navigate based on the experiences and feedback from the voluntary pilot. Notification letters are going to be going out soon to building owners and property managers of covered buildings. We basically want to do all that we can to get the word out about the first compliance deadline here coming up and make sure that everybody's equipped with what they need to go through their process to submit and to comply. Also within Q1 here, we're going to be disseminating a toolkit, which we've been preparing, which is just really an assortment of different templates designed to help any local government that should aspire to draft an ordinance and launch a program such as Brisbane. We want to make it easier for them, provide them with the stakeholder workshop slides, all the activity templates, the checklist used in reviewing different elements of the ordinance, and honestly, much more than that. Anything that we've provided, that we've created over the timeline here, we want to make accessible to them. And we're having ongoing discussions to really evaluate the opportunities to present to different groups, make sure that we're getting the word out. So we want to make sure the city has everything needed to run the program this year and in the years ahead. We're here to help in any way that we can. I think that's all that I had in terms of the presentation. So the next slide is just a placeholder for questions.
Question? In our review of our work plan with the city council, one of the the mayor has expressed interest if we were going to extend this to residential. And I understand that we already have a full plate with what we're doing with commercial, but is there plans for a rollout to residential? And both by the state and by this, is it something that we could look at for the city, especially for new construction?
So I'll ask Mark to jump in on any plans that might be happening at the state level. As far as locally, I think it'll probably take some time to research that. And we did, I was planning in my staff updates to talk about the updated work plan, and we did incorporate research on that in the updated work plan. I think there are some examples out there that we can look to. Berkeley has had a residential program for a long time. There are differences certainly, and we would have to craft it to fit Brisbane. But Berkeley, and I believe Boulder is another city that has some residential requirements. I think the question is really, what is the timeline for that? What is the appetite for that locally? And then I think new buildings is a kind of separate animal than existing. So this program is really for focusing on the existing buildings. Of course, new buildings will eventually be part of it. We have a kind of 5-year built in here for commercial buildings in the current program, so that after 5 years, then they will start to comply. But new buildings are really being addressed more under REACH codes and new building codes, and so that's where we're handling those. And you'll probably remember adopted actually the same day that we adopted this program, REACH codes that eliminate natural gas for the majority of new buildings.
Mm-hmm. With certain houses, we finally exceeded, for single family dwellings, and we finally exceeded the 7,000 square foot mark. And we do have a number of multi-residential units that exceed, that as well. So I hope we do.
Multifamily, currently multifamily dwelling that have 5 or more units and are 10,000 square foot are included in this program.
Right.
Yeah,
But we
we-
have some single family dwelling units that are over 7,000 square feet now.
Yeah, not too many, but a few. We did look at this extensively before our lovely and super helpful consultants got involved, and I think that there was some pushback from the real estate group, from the real estate agents. And then when the consultants got involved, it really seemed like that by far, just because of Brisbane's energy profile, that it was commercial and industrial that we need to address. As Adrian pointed out, new buildings are being addressed fairly well underneath Title 24. I can tell you, having just been through that process myself. It's really the old existing housing stock that we'll need to address eventually. But in my mind, that's like 5 to 7 years down the road, because I'd really like to get through at least one cycle of commercial to kind of let that play out and learn what we can learn from it and not have too many balls in the air, with this program. I mean, certainly other people may have a different idea about that, but that's kind of my thought in terms of where we are. Although I do think we do need to keep hitting our carbon bottom line. And that's sort of the big question for me is what are we going to do next in terms of our carbon bottom line? Because we do need to still be hitting the carbon bottom line.
Well, those discussions were over 2 years ago, and I don't know that we have another 5 to 7 years before we should address this. I think we should address it sooner than that because time is running short on
Yeah. I mean, your opinion's appreciated.
We certainly will take a look at that and see what kind of time frame is realistic. Glenn has had her hand raised for a minute, so Glenn, go ahead. Thanks for being patient.
Sorry.
So just a couple things. First, on residential, the Climate Action Planning Subcommittee went around and around and around on what should be our big lift. And this was it in terms of the impact on emissions. One thing about residential that I think we should keep in mind is that we have a new president and there may be more money which available for things like retrofits, if those are indicated. And so it makes sense to wait a little while and see what is on offer from the feds in terms of financial assistance to building owners. The question I wanted to ask, and this may be too early to ask, but I've read that there are looming shortages of qualified contractors to do audits, for one thing, and also to do some of the retrofit work that may result from audits. And I just wondered if Ivana and Mark, you had run into anything like that? Are there enough qualified people to do?
Yes, I would certainly say that there would be, especially in the Bay Area. It's really the breadbasket of sustainability in California, although I'm sitting in Los Angeles. But it's really, there's an abundance of engineers and contractors that have primarily been born out of the California Public Utility Commission ratepayer programs, where there's $1 billion a year, believe it or not, in California spent on energy efficiency. And there's a lot of training that is just within the city, in San Francisco, training center that PG&E hosts. And there's a ton of resources in terms of those contractors. In this specific ordinance in Brisbane, we aligned the certifications of what we call qualified auditor with neighboring cities and industry standards. And we've engaged industry in the initial stakeholder meetings, primarily a group called ASHRAE, without saying the acronym in full. They're the ones that really produce a lot of engineers. But we also included the U.S. Green Building Council and as much industry stakeholder input as we could on this. And if anything, right now, there's just contractors ready to go. I mean, looking for work right now, especially with the economic downturn and the culture of auditing that the utility ratepayer investment have created. There's historically been some limitations with, not historically, recently limitations with COVID restrictions pulling back some field work. So there's been some new innovation in terms of how buildings are audited for less cost than it would be traditionally. So I have not specifically heard that. Just worth noting on the residential sector, it is actually required to do a home energy rating for homes at time of sale, which is not always uniformly enforced in jurisdictions. So there are some requirements at time of sale, like this city of Berkeley has, and there are existing statutes that can actually possibly be looked at in terms of enforcement, or opportunities to engage if you want to shift gears to the residential sector in terms of time of sale triggers for auditing or upgrades. So for more questions, we can provide some input, perhaps in writing, or to Adrian and Karen if there's additional detail that you need.
Mark, who is the requirement for home energy ratings at time of sale? Is that a state requirement? I wasn't aware that that was in place.
I believe that's a state requirement.
Do you know when that was put in place? Because it's news to us.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard about that in 2011 or 2012.
Really?
When I was taking my certifications for certified green building professional, and then the HERS rating. So I don't believe it has changed, but it'd be worth confirming. And that's a long-standing. It's almost going to be 10 years.
Well, let's find out about that, because if that is still the case, then we need to figure out an enforcement path, so that like a compliance path.
And nothing like that was done.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, we bought our home in 2015. It definitely didn't have any energy disclosure along with it.
Yes, I think that there is an awareness that that people are not so much aware of that, right? So I think it's something that would be worth looking into a little bit more.
Oh, definitely.
But I can tell you, it's not commonplace. It's not commonplace that it actually happens in the field. It's like water. In some cases, certain types of permits aren't always pulled because there's some emergencies that happen that you can't wait for a permit. Your water heater breaks, things like that. So it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, let's jump on that, because even if we're the only city that enforces it in the state, I'm cool with that. I'm cool being number one to actually make it happen.
There are actually quite a few places for sale right now, so yeah, we should jump on that. How would we go about finding out about this requirement? Because we actually did quite a bit of homework, and it never,
right,
about that requirement never crossed our radar screen.
Right. There's a few bodies to look at and consider, but we can give some recommendations. So it would be CAR, NARI, and the California Energy Commission, and then the certifying bodies of the credential to do the HERS rating. So CalCerts and then BPI. There's a few that are out there.
That's who would do the rating, but where's the do you know where the legislation is? Because I assume it's legislation, right?
Well, at this point, it would be probably in the Civil Code or Public Utility Code. So we can look into that citation and see if we can provide that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
A slightly related point that just mentioned that I've heard recently, the Building Decarbonization Coalition is actually doing some investigation on whether how existing buildings may be able to be addressed through reach codes, actually. So they are doing some kind of legal groundwork on that front that I was just on a webinar about yesterday afternoon. Sounds like it could be very interesting. And it was interesting to see the other names on the attendee roster included several other folks from cities in San Mateo County, at the county, and around the Bay Area, including at the Air District, one of the program managers for the program that we got our grant under. So, it seems like there's definitely a lot of interest in momentum in addressing emissions from existing buildings and especially residences, whether that be through reach codes, incentives, rebates, etc. So I thought one thing that it sounded like they haven't addressed yet and is kind of the next piece that they are looking to incorporate is how to ensure that any reach codes for existing residences to perhaps replace gas equipment with electric at time of burnout or something along those lines doesn't create any kind of displacement or gentrification issues. So that's kind of a piece that is being investigated. So definitely a lot happening in that area.
Thank you. That sounds like it was a fascinating webinar, Adrian.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yep.
It will be good to see where that goes. Definitely will be more coming, I expect, on that.
Yeah. If you do have questions, Adrian, feel free to reach out. I'm currently on their advisory board for the Building Decarb Coalition, and there will still be a need for reach codes. The Title 24 language for the upcoming code cycle should be released in part this week.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
And next week. And so there will not, from what we see, probably be a full-blown electrification mandate or mandatory measures. So that would still mean that reach codes are still going to be important for the next few years.
Yeah.
And there are some things related to schools and hospitals, I believe, and some new language that just came out about low-rise non-residential or low-rise residential buildings. So that should be interesting in terms of, the heat pumps and envelope measures and what that means. So from what we've gathered in terms of the city, in terms of your efforts, in terms of electrification, the city's completely on the right track to be a leader in this.
So if there are no other questions about the building efficiency program, I think we can probably thank Mark and Ivana and let them get on with their evenings.
Yeah. I wanted to look at By Right's case study just because I'd like to learn what they learned. But I don't think we need to hold up Mark and Ivana for that.
I would actually mention that will actually be in the Star in February and in the Luminary as well. So you can look for that case study there. We're still doing a little bit of formatting, and then that will also be posted on our program website. But which will happen first will remain to be seen. So just another week or so, and then you should be able to find that in the Star when that comes out.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you guys. You pulled it off, or you're like 2/3 of the way there to pulling it off.
Well, not quite there yet, and I don't think we really quite mentioned that the reason we wanted to have this presentation now is because we are really getting both to the end of the contract with the Energy Coalition, as well as into kind of really launching this first compliance cycle. So those notifications to building owners are being prepared, and we're hoping to have those out in the next couple of weeks. So this is really, the next few months are really going to be where the rubber meets the road on this program.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Mark and Ivana. Have a good night.
Bye. I have my hand up.
Oh, Karen.
To make sure, is Red Ross?
I am fairly certain that it is because he had joined another meeting as that before. I think his
Oh,
middle name was Edward.
Edward, yeah.
I thought you were our Zoom bomber. We all did introductions. I was going to call you Red, Ross, and we have Nyla on board, who's our Climate Corps fellow that's going to help us with implementation of the first year of the program. So
Oh,
she probably
hello.
wants to hear a little bit about you just for a quick second.
Sure. Do you want to just give you a quick intro now?
Yeah.
Well, my name is Ross, nickname Red. As indicated before, I've been living in Brisbane for almost 10 years now. Been on Osec for a couple. Engineer by trade. Interested in the environment because, well, raising a family here, would like to make sure that my son, has a good, clean place to live. That's kind of it.
Ross, can I ask what, were you in the meeting as a webinar participant for long? Do you know what time you joined?
It showed me as a webinar participant, and I joined probably 18:15, or it was 15 minutes late, so it was 15 minutes after whenever we started.
Great, thanks. I didn't quite see when you showed up, so I wanted to make sure to capture that for the minutes. So I think with that we can go ahead, Mary, with the selection of the vice chair.
Yeah. So next item is selection of vice chair. So we're down to 5 of us. We have 2 open spots. So 2 of us are up for renewal, right? Reappointment. And yeah. So I was hoping, and this is just because Michelle joined me for the work plan with council, that she would just temporarily step in as vice chair.
Okay,
Until-
temporary till when?
The election is in the summer, right? In May, and then the new
We
chair and
usually
vice chair.
election in June, and then the new chair and vice chair take over their role in July.
Okay.
So
I could go either way. It doesn't matter. So we will have it.
We need to have one. If Mary isn't at the meeting, we want to know who's going to run the meeting.
yeah.
Glenn?
I'm fine with Michelle doing it until summer.
Yeah, no objections here.
Are you okay with that, Barbara?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
So I so move. I think that's what is required. So I make a motion to that effect.
Can I second it?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Michelle, vice chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We are on to staff updates, and I'm happy to go ahead and just kick that off. The first thing on my staff updates was going to be noting that the work plan review. So this has been alluded to a couple of times so far, but we realized that we hadn't talked with the Osec liaisons about the committee's work plan, and council was interested in discussing that at their meeting tomorrow. So we quickly went ahead and got that scheduled. That meeting happened yesterday. And I should note that Michelle was selected as our second person as our prior most recent past committee chair because Carl had resigned since our last meeting. So that was how that all came about. And I'm actually going to stop the screen share here and switch to the revised work plan because we did end up adding a couple of new things here that were discussed by various other committee members and brought up with the liaison. So I hope you're all, oops, hang on. Are you seeing the work plan at this point?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
It says your screen sharing is paused. Interesting. Okay, so the text in black is the work plan that you all saw last month, and the red are the additions. So we just talked a little bit about looking into residential program expansion for the building efficiency program. We've added that in, really just focusing on the research at this point in time. Another item that was added was considering a climate emergency declaration. This was something that Glenn had brought up, I think probably in an Osec meeting, but certainly to staff as well in the last year or two. And we thought it was a good time to go ahead and do this since we have gotten beyond the horizon of our existing climate action plan, which set a 2020 goal, and would give us an opportunity to set some new goals and, kind of make a public declaration that climate action is still an important priority for the community. I think also, in my mind, this is to help hedge against any concerns that might come up from not having established or adopted goals if certain funding streams might require that in the future. Been noted that the Biden administration may have some funding coming out. If that were to happen, we would certainly want to make sure that we were ready and able to be able to take advantage of those kinds of things. So that would be something that the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee would work on, and hopefully will help set the stage for a future CAP update. Under habitat restoration, there was some discussion on litter.
Scroll down. Scroll down.
Yeah, are you not? I am. Are you not seeing
Oh, yeah,
that?
we don't see that. Yeah.
Hang on, let me see if I can figure out what's going on with this screen share here. How about now?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay. So under habitat restoration, we discussed actions to support litter reduction, and actually Mayor Cunningham asked us to consider additional cleanup days if that becomes available to us based on COVID restrictions. And then we added back in supporting the replacement of the festival tree. Unfortunately, that item is back on the list at this point. And then finally, incorporating Sierra Point Park planning efforts. And so that's something we'll actually talk about again under our subcommittee updates, but there is going to be some planning efforts to select a consultant there, and we are being asked to select a representative to work on a subcommittee with, I believe it's Park and Rec and Council on that before moving forward with some public outreach in the future. So Michelle and Mary, and Karen, did I capture everything from that meeting?
Where's the invasive species ordinance?
It's on there.
That is, here we go, under the second bullet under habitat restoration.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It's tiny.
The font is small. I just wanted to clarify that this isn't on the council agenda for tomorrow night. And when we met yesterday, we forgot to ask, and we didn't get whether they're going to formally take this to the full council. But what we know for sure is that the liaisons will report out on, they're on committees and they report out to the rest of the council. So it may just be them reporting, but they wanted to kind of, we haven't met with them and they just wanted to do it 2 by 2. It was more, effective and efficient. It's been clunky when they come to the community meeting room, honestly, and this was pretty easy to do. They wanted to know what we thought we were going to be working on this year and kind of give their input and give their blessing to it and just be apprised of where we were. And, we got a lot of good feedback that we're doing good work, right? So it was
Yeah, it went well.
positive.
They also made it really clear that if we had questions, concerns, or, we're curious about anything, or there's something we think that they should know, by all means to reach out to them
So,
and keep them informed.
yeah, I had sent a lengthy email to Mary prior to the meeting, and I'm wondering if any of those things were discussed.
I didn't get that email, Barbara.
Huh, that's funny. Okay. Can you check your spam box? I'll resend it, but that's very extremely disappointing, although probably nobody's to blame. It's the internet. Gee, thanks, internet.
We have the sense, your staff has the sense that this list doesn't exclude new things that could come up, that we
Okay.
can always say, hey, we want to put some resources into this new thing and get that blessed. But we did get the feedback that this looks like a whole lot more than will be accomplished in 12 months. And we agree, we acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if more things come up, there's still an opportunity. This was sort of a, we'd been having the annual check-in and we hadn't done it, maybe because of COVID, or maybe we just haven't done it. It's been, I think, 2 years. So they wanted to do it. And now we're a lot more, they're in tune with what we're doing, I feel like.
Great. I'd love to, once this year point comes up, I'd love to put myself forward for that.
Okay. Well, I have it on the subcommittee list for us to select one under that
Okay, great.
agenda item.
Actually, I already asked if I could, I asked Mary to be considered for it because I spend a lot of time at the marina, and it's been really near and dear to my heart.
Let's hash it out down.
Yeah, and we'll go over that
Okay.
later.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and switch my screen share back to the slides. There we go. So other updates that I had, let's see, I already mentioned the case study in the luminary. Staff is going to be meeting on Friday with Peninsula Clean Energy's contractor on EV charging station designs for the Cal EVIP grant funding. We are still waiting for confirmation of the funding reservation. Karen and I and Justin Ewan applied for funds in mid-December, and we have not gotten confirmation if that funding reservation, what is currently allocated for us, but Peninsula Clean Energy is providing free technical support to help design, stations for 3 sites at City Hall, Mission Blue, and at the Park and Ride on Bayshore. So we'll be meeting with them to discuss that. If those funds are reserved and we like some of their designs, then we would try to bring that forward to the city council. Presumably there is a minimum 25% match, but 75% of the funding for the project is a very, very good offer. So we are hopeful that we'll be able to move forward with at least one of the projects. I think Mission Blue is probably our top site priority at this point. We also have a site visit scheduled. Actually, Karen has a site visit scheduled with Peninsula Clean Energy staff for the Mission Blue Center. PCE is also looking at solar and storage resiliency projects. So we are working with them on that. You probably know that Mission Blue Center is one of our designated emergency sites for the city. So they are looking to really make sure that emergency facilities are equipped to continue in the event of power outages.
But that is, just to clarify, that's a study that will tell us here's what you would need, but it doesn't come with any funding at this point.
Right, exactly. Glenn?
Just a question on a charger at Mission Blue. I know that quite a while ago, the Climate Action Planning Subcommittee talked about facilities that would serve the Ridge. And I'm just wondering, have Ridge residents been surveyed at all to see if they would use a charging facility at Mission Blue? Would it encourage the purchase of electric cars? Should we try to get some feedback before we choose that site?
Well, I guess we have not done a survey, but we have heard from many residents up there over the last few years asking for charging at Mission Blue. So,
and emphatically over and over, not just one little quick email.
Right, not just one little ask, many questions and emails and from many different people to many different people. It's been something that's come up over and over again. So we feel like there's probably pretty strong demand from them, but also that it would make sense just as a community site as well. So these would be for level 2 chargers, and probably a couple of them at least. But we'll have to see what makes sense in the design and what kind of funding we would be able to put towards it. So very preliminary at this stage to say that anything is actually happening, just that it's something that we're working on. And I know that we sent information about this grant opportunity to the HOA board at Altamar. So whether they submitted that funding request and got on that reservation list somewhere, I can't say, but I know that they were aware of it and they were also working with PCE's contractors. So hopefully they are also looking into that in a very serious way and able to move forward.
Okay.
And Altamar is the one that has the biggest challenge because the other 2 HOAs are townhomes and single family homes. So they could charge in their own garage. So
Okay.
one that really has been, and those are the members that have been contacting us about, help me, I have an EV, I want to get an EV.
Okay, great.
So I think this is the last thing on my list, is that I don't know if anybody has heard about SB 1383 as legislation around waste reduction and really methane reduction. So Randy and I are working with Scavenger on getting ready for compliance with that. So you'll probably start to hear more about that later this year. The requirements kick in at the beginning of 2022. And I will also be working with a county group that is leading the charge countywide on requirements to divert edible food. So that's a big part of it is getting edible food out of the waste stream and repurposed for feeding people rather than going to waste. So that sounds like it is going to potentially be a big effort in Brisbane with all of the food warehouse businesses that we have. That's all I have for today.
So I don't want to be a dud, but all of my updates have to do with, they're covered under subcommittees or somewhere else. So,
Hey, that's great.
And, well, unless, yeah, I'll jump in at the subcommittee. That makes sense.
Okay.
I thought Bob had one though.
Yeah, so I checked in, the Quarry Road signs are being manufactured right now, and she thought that they would be done and shipped up to their San Carlos store by the end of the week.
Oh.
So by next meeting, hopefully they'll be up and we'll have a picture for you for next month's staff updates. And the weed management area asked if we would join as part of the steering committee, since they said they'd like any city to join, which is just us and now South San Francisco. But South San Francisco respectfully declined, and they said there actually isn't much of a time commitment because they just redid their 5-year MOU, but they want to have representation from a city. So I said we would gladly be now on the steering committee for the WMA. So
Yay.
that's my
Oh.
updates.
Excellent, Bob.
Awesome.
That just happened yesterday.
That and you're going to renew the
WMA meeting was yesterday.
Sorry, that and you're going to renew the California Invasive Plant Council membership.
Oh yeah, and we're renewing the Calypsy membership, so we'll continue to support them. And they've done a great job this year organizing the WMAs across the state. And Calypsy was the one that really was advocating at the state level for increased funding and renewed funding. And there was mention that with COVID, the Doug Johnson from Calypsy mentioned that they'd have to see if funding was going to be continued, because he cited something that there's a potential that they could rescind it or pause it with if the state is in financial distress. But he hadn't heard that. He just suggested that maybe next year there won't be as many grants as there had been. And he mentioned it super brief, so just kind of like hopefully we continue with the grants. Hopefully COVID doesn't interrupt it. But anyway, I should know more. As I hear more, I'll share. And that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. Open space.
We have not
I
had a meeting and we really should schedule one. I've been asking, but we've been kind of busy.
Okay, I thought I had forwarded.
sent-
Did I email you guys just in
You
the past
did,
couple
you-
days? Okay.
You
good.
did email
Like,
us.
is that meeting
haven't
as a
had chance.
draft?
You did email us.
Okay, so
And-
that was what I worked on in the last reporting period, if you will. It was these reports to the California Coastal Conservancy for the grants. They funded 10 or 11, and either a half or 2/3 or 3/4, depending of the acres that we purchased. So they, every 5 years, require a report that says, you know, when have you visited the site? What do you have any encroachments? What are you doing? How are you maintaining it? That type of, do you still own it? And I had looked at the old reports and put together the data to do this year's cycle, but I didn't read, you know, how you read all the read everything before doing anything. At the very bottom of this report, they wanted a photograph of each site. So Bob stepped up and went out and, you know, you're cruising around the mountain and you have no idea where the property lines are. So he overlaid a map on an aerial photo and got me all the photographs, and I got those submitted, and that's what I forwarded to you, was to the reports that they're asking for, that just tell you the status and how you're treating that grant money. So that's like first step in exploring. You know, I told Mary and Michelle, who happen to be the subcommittee, that Clay wants, the city manager would like me to update the council on just the program and where it is and kind of the history of it and the shape of it. So I want to kind of put that together, and that can be something that we can meet and talk about. I was thinking of starting with Fred Smith's presentation to the committee, because he's, you know, he had been there since the inception and he gave a good presentation. Osec, my first year staffing. So starting with that and kind of building on it, and that might be the right time to weave in what the subcommittee is interested in doing with trying to expand the areas that we go after acquiring.
Okay.
Great.
So let me know when you want to get together on that. And I saw those reports and I looked at one of them. I went, what's this in context of? But now I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I wrote it in.
Okay.
Also, you know, I don't know what Shelter Belt's name is now, but they would have photographs of the areas as well.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily, it was each acre, like, show us that property that we helped you purchase and then that property separately.
He would know.
Yeah, and yeah, Bob mentioned that, right? But
Yeah.
I had already, like.
But Bob loved going on a field trip. That's good.
I think he didn't mind.
Oh yeah, not disappointed. I spent an afternoon and I actually uploaded it to Google Maps, so it worked like GPS. And I'm like, yep, I'm definitely here, and very welcome field trip after 9 months of working from home.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so the action item is we'll schedule a subcommittee meeting and review the documents, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, next, climate action plan.
Glenn, do you mind if I go ahead? Ross?
Are you asking me to do it, or did you say?
I think she wants to do it.
I wouldn't mind doing it. I just wanted to make sure you were okay with that.
That's fine.
Yes, we met, I think it was last week, and we spent a lot of time talking about the climate emergency. Oh my gosh, what do you call it? Climate emergency declaration. Yes. And we have that as a Google Docs. We can now go on and edit it. And I also spent some time haranguing about how we're not working on the cap, because that's one of my favorite, new cap, and that's because it's one of my favorite topics for the last couple years. Did we discuss anything else, Glenn? Ross?
We did agree that we would do some research on the on a residential building efficiency program.
Yeah.
Yep, that was the big
That's
thing.
really what's on our plate, I think, for the near future, is to start looking into things like this alleged ordinance, state law that there's supposed to be disclosure at time of sale. I'm just really flabbergasted by it.
You and me both.
Yeah, we hadn't heard that in a year plus working with.
I think it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering if that's actually true, because I think Berkeley had some kind of point of sale for point of sale requirement for residential buildings, and I believe San Francisco does.
San
but I
Francisco
think those
did.
ordinances are local.
Yeah,
Not-
I remember reading both of those, San Francisco and Berkeley's ordinances.
Yeah, so if there's something statewide, we should definitely know about it. But if not, we can look at the local ones and see, start looking into what those are all about and what we like and what we don't.
Absolutely, we can restart that.
That sounds, yeah, like a cool exercise. And, you know, we started with residential and it's very tangible because we all live in home, I think. But
There is
just want to point out that the Bay Area, the climate protection grant from the Air Quality District has paid $200,000 of these consultants' time to get us to the point of kicking off commercial program. And I'm sure the committee didn't envision, but I know that I and Adrian did not envision how much detailed work there is to craft a program. And it still feels like there's going to be a lot of kinks that get worked out because they're only getting us on the benchmarking, like fully prepared on the benchmarking, but the beyond benchmarking is going to be a different challenge too.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I have sympathy both
too.
with, and I see the wisdom in both of getting that accomplished and under our belt and comfortable with that before launching into residential. But I also hear the wisdom in what Michelle is saying, and that we've really overshot like all of our climate deadlines at this point, basically, it seems. So I mean, it's both things are true, and we just have to decide what it is. I mean, that's kind of one of the things we talked about in the CAP is like, how do we figure out where the next, I mean, the commercial industrial was like, that was really obviously, once we started digging into the data, our biggest bang for the buck. And I think really need to figure out, and that's part of what I wrote to Mary, is how do we figure out what is kind of a number 2 on that list? And if is it residential or is it not, you know?
Right. And speaking of resources, you know, the consultants doing all that, but to shout out again to Nyla, is like, it's great to have some extra help in this year. I mean, that's going to be a treat, but she's, you know, this project, this fellowship has a term. So after that, I think we're still going to have to wrap our hands around, do we need other resources or can we handle the rest of it with staff, or, you know, are we going to need like at least help seasonally or a lot of that we still want to work through, and we're a little nervous about, if that's the right word.
I would say that's a fair assessment of the situation. You know, I think the thing that I'm probably most nervous about beyond the, you know, rollout this year is rolling out the beyond benchmarking, because I feel like that is definitely, it's not something that's been done in all that many places yet. And it will take potentially a good bit of effort for us to be ready. I think that's something that hasn't been as big of a part of our work with the Energy Coalition this year, given the focus on the immediate work. And it's gonna be a major endeavor, I think, you know, come next year or the year after.
And also, you're not on a bi-weekly call with the other agencies that are doing that, where we are with the benchmarking part, and that's been invaluable too, is talking to San Jose and Berkeley and San Francisco on the regular about each little piece and how they've implemented it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need another climate fellow in 5 years when the
I mean,
beyond
likely.
benchmarking worked out. Yeah, but at the same time, I love and respect you guys and all the work you're putting into this, but we can't rest either. And I don't think anybody wants to. I know you all are, the staff is as dedicated as this committee.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Events.
Next, subcommittee events.
So you want me to do it, Mary, or you want to do it?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, so Day in the Park is very much up in the air, and we've asked the council in the meeting, the liaisons, if they could let us know if they have any, inkling of if it's gonna be a go or not. Habitat restoration days are on hold right now because we cannot gather together enough. We can't gather, but Mountain Watch is starting to do small group habitat restoration, so there might be a possibility of that. And then the only other event that we have going on event wise is we're going to do the recycled arts and crafts contest again, and at this point it'll be virtual again, but we're going to start earlier this year. Hopefully did we discuss having it in the March?
April, I think we talked about launching it with Earth Day essentially.
Yeah, April, because we'd like to get ahead of the curve in case that we do have a Day in the Park, then we can actually have a live art gallery out on the lawn of entries. So that would be really exciting. And I think that's about all we have for events. Glenn?
So we say start in April, does that mean just announcing the contest in April?
Yeah, and we would have this time, instead of the end date being in October or November, as long as Adrian doesn't take another leave of absence, we'll have it in
I'm
August.
sure not planning to.
We'll have it in at the end of August, I think, this year, so that we can really be ready if we can actually do it, have a show in October. That would be so exciting. We'll see how things go. Very optimistic, though. That's it.
Great. Education and outreach. I know Adrian had some contact with the Brisbane library manager about securing a spot, and that's kind of on hold until a couple months down the road, I believe.
Yeah, I think she just said they hadn't even had a chance yet to get in there and move in. So once they did that, they would follow up with us about whether there was space.
And then,
Glenn?
I just wanted to say, Mary, you and I should maybe get together and actually meet. A friend of mine and I were talking about the trash problem, which has been
enormous.
Which has really been causing a fair amount of outrage on next door, specifically about the freeway exit from 101 South.
Yeah.
Is not really in our ballpark.
Yeah.
It's a problem in general. And so wondering if maybe you and I should get together and talk about outreach to the schools about litter.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we need to have staff present for that subcommittee meeting?
What are you guys wanting to do? I guess we want to be looped in at some point.
Well, so maybe Mary, you and I should talk about dates and then tell.
Okay, I'm done.
Is
Perfect.
that
Right.
you want to be looped in, Karen?
You want to prepare literature for the schools or some type
I'm
of?
not really sure how to do this, but I can't really think of any other strategy right now that might help with the litter problem. It's just really outrageous.
While we're the go request, right? So I think maybe we advertise that again in the Luminary and the Star, and maybe point to the fact that, if you're taking a walk and you see a ton of garbage, take a picture and send it in. And the city responds pretty quickly. I took a walk with Michelle, and we noticed some garbage on Quarry, the end of Quarry. And thanks to Karen, I put in a go request to see if the city can come out and clean it up. We went back and forth a few times, but they eventually got back to me, and it ends up being it's on San Mateo County property. So the county has to come out and pick up that garbage. So the city mentioned that they would contact San Mateo County to remove that. It's still there, but I think the go request will help get that garbage.
Track the request.
Yeah, I do.
I've had to communicate with the county about, I think it was, when Glenn was on the committee. When I was staffing the committee earlier, and it was the skater area and along Quarry Road, and they don't have a go request system. They don't have an easy system. And I had someone's contact, staff to staff, and I said, well, what's the best way? Like I'm getting these requests from you guys and from other people, and what's the best way to get those to you? Do you have a system like that? No, just contact me. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say, like, let's take care of this, or I'll give my 7-member committee your email, and then you'll get a
Like
lot
that.
of contacts.
Yeah.
You'll get
In a public meeting too.
Yeah.
constant requests.
Mary,
So
did you want to mention about having a regular feature in the Star for Osec as a?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we should do that as a committee, just have a secured spot and just update the community on what we're doing and how they can assist, i.e. the go request and litter. I mean, I think one of the problems I'm seeing is there's not enough of trash cans around.
Mhm.
I'm seeing that. I don't know if anybody's taken a walk by Trove on the trail, but I walked by there and it was a disaster. But all the garbage cans were overflowing. So I took a couple of pictures and I mentioned it yesterday at council because litter was a big issue. And I sent copies of that to Mayor Cunningham, and she said she would address it with staff. And so I think, if you guys are walking in town, get that go request on your phone and start snapping away. And that may jolt people to get moving on picking up the litter maybe more frequently than what's happening. Or just by adding more trash cans, right? More trash receptacles. That in itself would help. But I do agree, it's just been horrific.
I agree with more trash receptacles, but I would also like to do some sort of public education on it. So I think a regular feature in the Star would be a good idea, preferably with photographs.
Yeah.
And maybe some photographs of the consequences. There's some really good pictures of sea animals with, entangled in trash or with bellies full of trash.
Yeah.
I think just, part of it is picking up after people, but there should be, that's not really the city's job. I can see the city being easily overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If we're really relying on them to pick up trash after the fact. I've turned in go requests and I've gotten very good responses to them.
Yeah.
But this is just, it's people's habits that are outrageous. And I think some kind of public education initiative would be helpful. And one place to do that is the schools. I'm not sure about other places, but we should put our heads together and think about it and see what we can come up with and whether there's any money. Should we do posters? I don't know.
Okay.
I think it sounds like this is a good subcommittee meeting to kind of discuss. Karen, do you want me to potentially meet with them, or would you want to be involved in that?
We can both go the first time and see whether I should keep going or can't. I have the bandwidth. I like the ideas though of the education pieces. Like if someone on this, I don't know, do we have a subcommittee officially, or is it education outreach?
Yeah, it's under that committee. Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to put together a STAR article, that's a good starting point, even before that
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
put together a STAR article. that's been great that you guys have been drafting stuff up and then, you know, we're helping to kind of get it in the format to get in there. There's always room to do that.
How long should it be?
A page at
A
most.
page with graphics.
Yeah,
Or-
a page with
Michelle.
Okay.
Poor Adrian. I said 3 pages on my dark skies
Okay,
article.
okay. So when's the next star? We're probably too late for February, right?
We're definitely already too late for February. So the deadline is always the 15th of the month for us to have it to Caroline, and that would probably mean that we should plan to have it together, you know, at least a few days before that, ideally, in case it needs to have any edits or review.
It really should be done by February 5th.
Yeah, probably something like that. If we are shooting for,
March.
that would be the March edition. I think at this point, oh man, I think I
The Dark
mentioned
Skies.
my updates and I didn't actually do it. The Dark Skies article and survey got pushed because we hadn't had the conversation yet with City Council, making them aware of what we were working on that. So that is currently slated to be going out in the March edition. So we would already have that there. That doesn't necessarily mean we couldn't have a second article. Sometimes we're able to do that. Sometimes we're not. So we could work on it. But we really only have, you know, a week or two at this point, probably.
I think we had an invasive species article that was that we were coming up on.
Glenn?
Yeah, and I still have to write that, so I'll do that this weekend. It was just about broom, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so, okay.
And
So
it's a
we
great
have,
time
so we
for
have the
that
Dark
article.
Skies in February, so,
No, she
March.
just said it's moved forward to March.
March.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
really
March,
too late to
sorry.
get it into February.
February we can't. And so.
Oh yeah, February's
Okay.
definitely off
So
the
should-
calendar already.
Should we still try and get the article done by February 5th for the garbage? In addition to invasive species?
And Dark Skies.
Oh, yeah.
We have to decide, you
three
know.
is too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, two
That was-
might be
that was
possible.
kind of
Three's
the point.
probably a stretch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, up to you guys. I mean, I think if we're trying to get a subcommittee meeting together and figure out what the messaging is and how we want to position it, and doing all of that by February 5th might be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
recognize there's a lot of urgency on this because I've heard several times now that there's a big problem and a lot of outrage about it. But, you know, I think we should also be realistic with what we can accomplish. So let's maybe think that we'll aim for the following month on that, and you know, have Glenn, Mary, Karen, and I get together as a subcommittee to kind of flesh out what that article can look like.
Okay. So then, do you want me to schedule the meeting or?
If you wouldn't mind starting an email chain, send some
Yeah,
dates
I'll
to the
do that.
4 of us, that would be
Okay.
great. And then we
Okay.
can select a date and I can set up a Zoom meeting for us.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, okay. Next, invasive species ordinance. Kind of just talked about that, right?
And we need to work on that and start nailing down what that ordinance actually is. So can we have another subcommittee meeting on that? I've never written an ordinance, so I really don't know what we need to do on that one.
Oh, okay, Bob's on mute. We've put that down for quite a bit, haven't we, with
Yeah.
COVID and et cetera.
And the council liaison was very interested in it. Karen was really in support of it. And I think we need to strike while the iron's hot.
How's your bandwidth, Bob? Can we do a meeting in the next few weeks?
Sure. Yeah, I'll always fit it in.
Okay, you and I should probably check in on what we had done to date, so we don't, take everyone's time going, figure out what materials to send to everybody.
That would be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, dark skies, we kind of talked about that as well.
Actually, I'd love to hear what the liaisons had to say.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't really have much to say about that. We just noted that we were going to be working, we were hoping to work on it, that we were working on making a recommendation for them, and that we had an article for the March Star. And Barbara, I have your email about the survey. I haven't gotten around to actually putting together that, but I will get back to that soon and be in touch with a draft survey to get some feedback on that before we put that
Yeah,
in.
no, I mean, I thought we were working on the survey together. I sent you some stuff. I wasn't expecting you to just do it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I agree with Barbara, though. I thought they were going to ask some specific questions about it because it had kind of been outed and they didn't have the background, but we didn't get far into it. And, maybe because we set this meeting up a week or two after, none of us thought to be like, hey, here's what we want to do with this. So
They seemed, to me, they seemed very supportive of it.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
agree.
conflict about us moving forward with it, and they both seem very supportive of it. So let's also strike while the iron's hot and get that going.
And this is a voluntary ordinance. That's
No,
no.
and it will also be residential. And we need to do that because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so, we are looking at the Baylands development and there's residential there. And so it needs to be applicable to Brisbane as well.
Okay, see, that's important information because we had sort of, the subcommittee had sort of shied away from doing residential. I know you wanted to do residential, Michelle, so it's important feedback from that meeting that council is interested in tackling residential because we'll need to go back in and rework the ordinance to some degree.
Yes.
did we talk at that level?
I felt like we did. Yeah. I mean, we brought it up and
I think we had gotten into whether the ordinance would cover residential or not.
I got the impression very clearly from the mayor that it should include residential. But I may be wrong, so you can double check that.
Maybe it merits an email.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't
remember either.
I think it was very broad discussion. So that's
well,
how
I mean, it might be, as we have something a little shaped up, it might be worth reaching out to them and saying, this is what we're thinking of proposing. Does this,
Sure.
Are you receptive to this?
I think we include both, right? Commercial and residential, and go in asking for both. And,
sure.
Knowing that we may just come out with commercial and, it's still a win. It's a big win. So I think we include both and,
or we may end up with a, modified residential.
Right, exactly.
But to not include residential is
no, I think we should include
we
it.
really need to include it because there is some egregious residential lighting.
The vast majority of it's coming from the commercial park and the dump.
Yes, but
yes, it is. Yeah.
But on an individual level, when you actually, I should send the full text of the article to everybody in the committee. May I do that, or would you do that, Adrian? The original article.
Do you have the final one?
No, I have the final one, but I was really wanted to send the original one, the longer version, to the Osec members so that they really get an idea of the details of how detrimental.
No, I think we get it. It's just the problem is most of the lights coming from the commercial areas, and prying someone's 100-watt 5K color temperature LED out of their hands for their porch lamp is going to be harder than compelling a company.
No, because it's going to be an ordinance, and really, you know, some of the light that escapes in a residential area is some that is most intimately harmful to
Understood.
human health,
But remember,
because it
no
shines
living
in your
is operating.
bedroom at night, and you know, you can't get a good night's sleep, and you know, it also affects lots of
So
things.
rather
let's-
than solve this right now, which
Yeah.
not, you know, it's not really on our agenda to make that decision
Right.
tonight. And it sounds like there's a lot to think about. That's what I said before. Let's shape something up. Let's not
Yep.
have an entire ordinance going to council having no idea how they feel about it. Let's shape something up and outline, and then get in front of those liaisons again or something and talk it through, and then finalize what we're gonna.
Yeah.
So
And
let's make
also,
our case.
I
Let's make our
thought-
case.
I thought I had been added to the dark skies ordinance in our November meeting or December meeting, but I'm not seeing my name as part of one of the members in that group.
Yeah, because you wrote the article that would
Right.
Yeah. track, I guess.
And
Sorry
so-
about that. I may have missed that. We only have 2 listed on that committee. So as long as that's okay with everybody, I'll go ahead and update that now. I apologize.
Okay, and we can have a more heated discussion during this.
Yeah,
afternoon.
yeah. So we'll figure it out. Okay, thank you. So the next is Crocker Trail Master Plan. That is. What?
Skip this.
Oh, I'm looking at my paper agenda. Sorry. Liaisons to council.
Which I think we covered that.
Yeah. Okay. Sierra Point Park Planning. I kind of associate that with the beautification committee that we have listed.
Can
Right.
I see Adrian? Can you describe what they were saying they wanted?
So I guess my understanding is that one of the developments or multiple developments at Sierra Point have contributed significant funds to dedicated to parkland at Sierra Point. And so what they are looking for is a subcommittee of council, Park and Rec, and Osec to begin the planning effort and select a consultant to work on a master plan to design that parkland out there. And so there will be a larger public process in the future, but they're hoping to have kind of input on that selection of the consultant to work with from that smaller ad hoc subcommittee to begin with.
And my understanding was it is primarily at this point centered around the park planning that they're doing for that area right when you come down where Sierra Point Parkway terminates and splits. That area that is city property that was leased for 30 years to a developer that we were able to get back, and they're doing a parklet or a small park there. And it was my understanding that this was a representative to help represent Osec in particular for that part to start with, and the rest of it was more of a general, larger picture. But that's the park that is at the forefront of this selecting a rep to work on. That was my understanding.
I don't know that I got that whole bit about the parklet. So
I think
Well, it's not really a parklet. It's pretty large size area.
I
but-
think that's information you have outside of from yesterday's meeting. You already know that from the whole process that's led
Yes.
to this point.
Is that particular parcel has been of high interest to me since 1984, when it was supposed to have been developed as part of our marina plan, and which was why we leased it to the developer in the first place with a 99-year lease. And they didn't do anything. And so it just sat there, and they put dirt on it to make it a bigger place, big lump, so that people wouldn't use it and block the view shed to the marina. And I was also very involved in making sure that we did not trade this land that we owned for land that we owned. And so I I really do have a lot of attachment to that particular piece of property. And I do spend a lot of time at the marina. Can also sort of represent some of the viewpoints from the Sierra Point Yacht Club as well. So that's why I'm very interested in working on that. I do spend a lot of time there, and I'd love to see it come to fruition after waiting since 1984 for something good to happen on that
Okay, well,
piece.
I'm not trying to do Mary's
No.
job for her, but it sounds like we ought to let Barbara
Yeah.
offer why she would like to do it, and then the committee decide.
Why would I like to do it? Because I love this process. I love working on this committee. I would love more opportunities to work beyond this committee. I am passionate about everything in Brisbane, not just Sierra Point. And I can't say specifically that I have Michelle's history, but I'm happy to learn and I'm happy to take input and develop that vision going forward with, you know, everybody on the committee's input. So I'd love to see and have a hand in whatever, making that the best that we can make it, whatever that comes to be, you know.
So, and again, I don't want to do Mary's job for her, but usually we end up like pretty unanimously saying, all right, you're on this committee, we all agree.
Yeah.
If members feel like they're not comfortable, we could do something else like a secret ballot. We can email where you can vote on an email. If you don't want to.
Well, you know,
Actually, since we are in a webinar, I actually have the ability to do a poll. So it might take me a minute to figure out how to do it, but I think I would be able to allow the committee to vote.
yeah, you know, can I just mention something on our subcommittee list? We do have that beautification subcommittee that Michelle.
Essentially a vote for
But
Michelle.
this is a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a different thing? Oh, okay. I thought it was.
No, this is a different thing.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty.
Yeah, that nothing has happened with that at all. I've never heard word one.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that Sierra Point Park planning was part of the beautification.
No, so we asked about the beautification and they said it is not defunct, but it is on hold. So keep it on your list, but that's why we faded it out.
Okay. Okay.
So I think I threw that out there for discussion. Would the committee members like to figure it out here in the open, or would you like Adrian to put a poll together, or is that, you know?
I mean, can we have more than one person on the committee?
No.
Okay.
Well, we were told one, right? We're all there.
One.
Okay.
I'm sorry, normally I'm not so set on one particular thing, but I do feel pretty strongly about that one.
I mean, I think it puts then a burden on Park and Rec to have two, and I think they're down to 4 people at this point, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Are you working on a poll, Adrian?
I am.
Okay, let's do a poll. Let's move on through this list, and then she'll have a poll ready.
Crocker,
I think I might have it now, but I need to know, first off, if folks would like for this to be anonymous. And second, I need staff, including Nyla, to commit to not voting because I don't think I have a way to restrict this committee member.
okay.
I won't vote. You can count too.
I don't
Right.
care.
I'll be able to see, I think, but I can either make it anonymous or not. So would folks prefer that it is anonymous?
I don't think it. Oh, you want it to be anonymous?
I don't
I
care.
do.
I heard a yes, so I'll make it anonymous.
All right.
So
We better just get 5.
let me see if this works.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Did you
Wait,
have?
you have the wrong names though.
Oh yeah, not me. It was Michelle.
Sorry, Mary was talking while I was trying to do this on the fly.
Crocker Trail's enough.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Michelle. Hang
Stupid
on.
brain.
Where did it go now? I have too many things going on here. And that. Edit.
I'm just hoping that whoever is on this committee recommends, was it RRM that's doing the landscaping
Trail.
plan for Crocker Trail? They're awesome. I think they should be considered. My 2 cents.
I
Anyway,
wonder if they would want to bid on it. Yeah, they're doing
I
a nice
know. I
job.
think they. Yeah. I mean, I think they're great.
They're doing a really good job on Crocker
They
too.
are.
So are you, Mary. You
Oh
know.
no, I'm just. They're awesome.
Although after tonight, I wish we'd talked about trash a little bit more at that meeting last night.
Yeah, I was surprised because when I voted on the trash cans last night, I voted for the biggest can. And I think I was like
not the
only one
small
who
one.
voted for the biggest cans.
Not the small one. That's true. They had that. That's true.
But I liked all the natural setting.
Yeah, I also attended that meeting last night.
Yeah.
And did all the voting, and it was, yeah, they did, the RRM did run it pretty well, I thought.
Very well organized.
Okay, I think I have this fixed. All right, let's try again.
Okay.
Okay, I have 5 votes. I assume that is the 5 from the committee.
Didn't vote.
Yes, I did not vote.
Okay.
So we had 2 votes for Michelle and 3 votes for Barbara.
Okay, there you go.
I will definitely listen to you, Michelle. I'm going to need you, because you have some history that I don't have. So please feel absolutely included.
Okay.
I mean, that's the role, is representing everybody else. So
yeah,
definitely get that feedback.
I just want to make that very clear. It's very important to me.
Okay, great. So we can put that to bed. Crocker Trail, we just kind of mentioned a few things. They're more than halfway through, right? The project. So the next step is everybody voted yesterday, and it's open to the rest of the community. You can access that. If
The
you
survey's on the website until January
is.
29th. Tell your friends,
Yeah. So please take a look. Great ideas, and then they'll pull that together, and it will go before City Council and the Advisory Committee, and that will be a public meeting. Okay.
And then we will have a master plan. Yes.
Yes, master plan. And they have just great ideas. Love it. Okay, next is tree issues.
And this was not on our work plan, and this
was
distressing. Mary and I talked about it after the meeting, and we realized that wasn't on our work plan.
Yeah, I noticed.
Adrian and I noticed that too, and we're all like, how did none of us?
Yeah, none of us brought it up. What happened there?
So we can add that, right? I mean, they are open to additions, and we're already. I sent the draft ordinance back with additional language included. So I'm just waiting for comments from Barbara.
Oh, I think I missed that one.
Yeah.
Is this the one you'd sent it right before the last meeting?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I just kind of beefed up the introduction. That's what I did. That's basically what was requested. And please feel free to add additional language if you'd like.
Thanks for the heads up, because I think that one flitted past me.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself on that one because it would have been a great opportunity to just check with those 2 council members, get their temperature on what we were talking about and get some, their thoughts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, it's not too late. I mean, we can still add it, right?
Or maybe schedule another meeting with them just to discuss this one issue, because it is
probably
a pretty important issue.
Yeah, probably gonna be next step.
And
I mean, I think when you're not really sure, or if you think there may be, people on the opposite side, it really helps to have a subcommittee and have them backing one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The only other thing is I was supposed to bring a list of trees that have not been replaced, but I was in bed with a migraine for like half the day, so I didn't finish that process. So I still owe you all of that, and I will get that soon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We wanted to know the specific areas or street addresses where the trees were. Not
Yeah, just some
replaced
examples.
appropriately.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's why I'm in my fluffy robe.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll get there. Next, benchmarking ordinance, pretty much.
Yeah, I think we covered that earlier. We can
Yeah.
skip that one this
So-
time.
Okay, and then Lippman Science Fair. Did I tell you last meeting that I did talk to Bob Detmer? And Bob Detmer was in contact with, I forgot his name. Joe Condon, the director of the science program at Lippman. And they plan on having a science fair, virtual, and they're kind of working on it and coming up with different ideas, but I have not been updated. So as soon as I find out, I will let you know, Barbara.
Yeah. I mean, are they gonna? It'd be cute if they do little web pages or something. Everybody.
Yeah,
gets
they have some ideas, but I think they're still trying to figure out how to make it all happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, so that's the update for that. Okay. Oh, Glenn?
So Mary, just a question. Would this science fair contact be a good person to talk with about litter education?
Yeah, yes. I can email you his contact information.
Okay, well, we're going to have that.
Or I can do that. Yeah, I mean, I can do that.
We're going to have that subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Actually, can I say that Joe Condon's a science fair is a science teacher, and I think he's kind of got his hands full. I think if anybody, you should probably talk to the principal and get a school-wide involvement rather than going through poor Joe, who I'm sure is struggling like every other teacher right now with this whole virtual online learning thing.
Okay.
He'd probably have to kick it up to her anyway.
Okay.
Well, that might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just a thought. How do we get in there? Because we've had that in the past. So.
Yes, we have definitely struggled with schools,
maybe if you offered to do a Zoom class for them on it, they might jump on it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. That's a great idea. Okay.
So we don't have the festival tree on this list for obvious reasons. Thought we were done. Should we put it back? But I do have a little bit of an update since we met, since the last meeting, I think. But we met shortly after, or maybe before the last full Osec meeting, is that we've got Davy Tree had to get us in the schedule to remove the tree. So we're up in the schedule such that it can be removed in the next week or two. You need to not close the road, but take a couple parking spaces. So they need to fill out an encroachment permit and get a date. It's coming to remove the tree. And at this point, he's reaching out to nurseries to see what sizes and types of trees, but I don't have detail back yet.
Karen, you asked us to put a stake in where we thought
Right.
the tree should go. And Mary and I did go and look at it and stood where we thought it should go, but we didn't have anything to stake with, and there's no rocks anymore to take from the other tree to make a little cairn where we thought it should go. So not exactly sure where how you want us to do that.
I guess I was thinking you would have had, I mean, it might take a hammer, so you don't have to do that, a piece of wood or something that you could.
I've got some stakes, some markers, stake markers. I could meet you down there at some point.
Okay. Yeah, but do you want us to do that before they remove the other tree? I think that would be a good idea.
That's a good point. Just let me know. If you let me know, I come into town once or twice a week to swim, so I can just pull over and get out and take a look. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully you don't place it and they remove the tree the next day. Then you'd have to probably come back and do it again.
Yeah, but at least they'd have a clue where.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Glenn?
Are we sure that the water issue has been fixed? And I'm asking because when I've gone
It's not fixed. We're going to fix it after the tree is out because it's under the tree.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But now that loop is turned off. We can get the tree out and then they'll be able to repair the irrigation line.
Okay, I was wondering because when I go to the farmer's market, I've noticed it's just totally soggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped by once after swimming and I immediately texted about, or go requested about the wet.
And
Grass
why,
turf.
why do they, this is, this has been as chronic a problem as litter in town. Karen, what do you have to do? Do you have to like do a tabletop dance to get them to not water the park so much?
Well,
What's it gonna
I don't
take?
know if you guys have met Joe Friars, who was responsible for buildings and grounds and
I don't think so.
the maintenance team leader. He went on medical leave.
Okay.
So his fill-in person that was, acting in that position, that was a lead maintenance worker, was taking care of that stuff. And he said, I hadn't watered it for several days. And I was like, that's great, but you need to cut down the amount of time. The sun's not out for very long. It's not hot. It's not drying up. Just cut it down. And he said he did after the week. I could go back to when I mentioned it to him, but it was, his replacement was taking on a lot that he wasn't used to. So
Yeah,
this winter, I think that's what happened. Other times, I don't know. I can't speak to other years, right?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just a shame because, we were successful during the drought, but, but we're headed back into another drought by the looks of it. So let's get back on that wiser, tighter schedule.
Park is
Okay.
muddy for the farmer's market. December 17th is when I communicated with him.
Okay, we're done with subcommittees, calendar items.
So I just wanted to note that disposable foodware ordinance, we are planning to have that come up at next meeting. Unsu from the county, we had hoped to have her at this meeting and then push that off until February. So she'll come and talk about the county disposable foodware ordinance next meeting, and then we're hoping to be able to receive a recommendation and bring an ordinance to council hopefully shortly thereafter.
Great. We're supposed to be planning habitat events. I just want to throw this out there. When I pick up something from the library, they schedule people like every 10 or 15 minutes. It's maybe too cumbersome, but what if we did a habitat event where if we did a planting day and we scheduled people every 15 minutes and they showed up at the table socially distanced with the mask, they were able to pick up their plant from somebody who was standing back, and they were able to like walk up the hillside and put it in and walk back down. And so, I mean, would that just be too, it would be too cumbersome, but it would be something.
It would be too cumbersome.
Okay.
It'd be too
Sounds
cumbersome,
pretty.
and that much foot traffic would be more damage probably than it would be help. But we're starting to experiment with Mountain Watch of having a couple of volunteer shifts on a particular habitat restoration day. And if that works out well, then we might look at doing that sooner rather than later.
Sure.
So for the staff's part, Bob, Jeff, and I, who are the team that usually is planning on the staff side, were in touch within the last month or so and discussed checking back in with each other at the beginning of March. Quite frankly, habitat restoration days have been in the past relatively easy for us to plan. And so we figured by March, we'll have a better sense of what the restrictions would be for April. I know when Bob reached out to Randy about trying to host a planting day in January, at that point in time, there was definitely no appetite for having any kind of public event, but we're hopeful that, maybe if we're out of the current shelter in place orders, we'll be able to move forward with something. So we already have a plan to check in March and see what the current restrictions are and how we can work within those to hopefully have something.
And by then we'll have maybe 1 or 2 Mountain Watch events under our belt to know how it works and smooth out some of the details.
Cool.
Anything else on the calendar?
No, I'm anxious to wrap up. My head is still causing me pain.
All right, well, we're almost there. Chair and committee member matters. Anything that hasn't yet been discussed?
No, I don't have anything.
You can meet in person and get a new picture. Oh, and we had only told you guys yesterday, the two with the council liaisons, that the interviews for the positions, we have two renew that you guys did reapply, and two open positions are going to be January 26th. So we
Yep.
should be getting potentially new members.
Yeah.
Do you know if we got a lot of applications or?
4 applications for 4 seats.
Yeah.
Glenn and I reapplied, and then we have 2 new people who hopefully the council will see fit to appoint both of them for our 2 open positions.
They are doing the Planning Commission and the Recreation Commission interviews tomorrow night. And what has happened in the past is sometimes they've had more applicants than what has than they have positions for, and they've rolled some of those over and
Yes.
asked them to participate in some of the other committees and commissions. So be aware that's always a possibility too.
It is.
Yeah, that's true. They had about 8 for each of those. So
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okey-doke. Next meeting is February 17th.
Awesome.
Same time and place.
All
I move
right.
we adjourn.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Good night.